Yeah. I've lost 2 people. They can press the wrong button, but they'll come back.
But just thought we might make a little start. Really great to see so many of you here today. It's obviously something that's important to us. So we're really happy to have Dr. Bella Smith with us today, just so we can kind of spend the next 40 minutes to an hour getting your information. There's a couple of things just for you to remember. It's being live streamed, so none of your faces will be in it, but just to be aware of that. There will be questions. You'll feel free to ask questions during the presentation. We're looking at about 40 minutes for the presentation, so there will also be questions afterwards if you have time for questions afterwards. If you want to do that. We also have a request if I can take a picture from the back forward. So is everyone happy with that? So we'll probably do that sometime during the presentation. One other thing that I'd really like to say on behalf of the Women's Network is we've had a really good response to this session. More than anything, I mean, it was sold out within 4 days of it going online. Sold out. There's obviously something here for us to work a way forward. I'd really be interested in getting your views on that. If you felt that you benefit from a menopause support group or maybe kind of continuous presentations, I'd be really happy to, as a Women's Network, to facilitate and support that initially. So we'll get a bit of a feedback email out of that, and if you're interested in working forward, then it would be great to hear from you. So thanks very much. Thank you, Dr. Bella Smith.
Thank you, Becky. Okay, so hello everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Dr. Bella Smith. I'm going to talk about the menopause. I'm really grateful for your time because I know it's lunchtime. The bridge is shut. The wind is really strong. Ipswich, I don't know if you've been outside. Ipswich is a standstill at the moment. So I'm really grateful that you're all here. I'm also really excited to be talking about the menopause because I see a lot of women who suffer in silence. And the fact that we're here, the fact that this exists, the fact that I've been invited, the fact that talking, I think is amazing. So thank you. So very informal chat. If you want to ask me questions at any point, please just ask away, okay? Right, let's start. Before I start, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story, okay, just to get us in the mood. So I'm going to tell you about a lady called Mary. Now, obviously, this is not a real person because it would not be right to say that. This is a person that I've kind of created. It's sort of about 100 different women all put together, and I've come up with her. And I've given her name Mary, and she is 45 years old. And Mary works in London. She works long hours. She's very successful, works in finance, commutes daily on the train to London from Suffolk. So she's very busy, very successful. Now she comes in to see me. She sits down as a GP. She sits down and she says, Dr. Smith, I am so worried about my memory. And it turns out, she said, for the last 6 months, I have been feeling like I have got what she describes as brain fog. I'm not myself. And as soon as she starts talking, she starts to cry. She's big tears, really distressed. So we take a moment. It turns out her mother had dementia, died from dementia, Alzheimer's. Her father's now on his own. So for Mary, this is her worst nightmares coming true. She's absolutely terrified. Where we go from there, we do our systematic questions and history taking. So I discuss her mental health. So yes, she's tearful. Yes, she cries a lot. She said, I just don't have control of my emotions. But I'm not depressed. I don't feel sad. I just can't stop crying. Her physical health. So physically, she's very well. She says, her bowels, she's not breathless, there's no cough, there's no urinary symptoms, she's pretty fit and well. Come in, have a seat, that's all right. And then in terms of sexual health, she's sexually active, but she just doesn't fancy it at all at the moment. In terms of her periods, they are incredibly heavy and chaotic and causing her all heaps of problems. And then we talked about her social health. So she is working long hours, as you heard. She's very stressed. She has a partner. She has her dad, who she worries about. She's got her children, who are one's at uni, one's at school. She's worried about them. She has no time for herself. She never exercises for that reason. She's drinking. She tells me she's drinking too much alcohol. She has white wine at night, 2 or 3 glasses at least every night, because she just can't switch off. She's not sleeping well. She hasn't got time to eat well, so her diet is not ideal, and she's having ready meals late at night when she gets home. And we have this long conversation. I then examine her, so blood pressure, we do heart, lungs, I do a memory test. Her memory is 100%, so she scores top score out of the memory test. There's nothing wrong with her memory. Mary is perimenopausal at the age of 45, and this is normal. And Mary has spent the last 6 months worrying and thinking that she has Alzheimer's, and actually she is perimenopausal, and she has suffered in silence because of it. There is so much that we can do to help Mary. So we can help with her lifestyle, her diet, there's self-help. There is just reassurance can help. There is exercise, but there is also medication, HRT, hormone replacement, non-hormone replacement, supplements, talking therapies. There's heaps that can be done. And today I'm going to talk through them all. Okay. So let me tell you about me. So this is me. That's me. I am Dr. Bella Smith, so I'm a GP, and I am a GP in Woodbridge. I qualified from Nottingham University in 2002, so about 17 years ago, I think. I left med school with 2 degrees, so I had my medical degree, but I also had a biomedical sciences degree in first class. And I moved to London, and in those years were my junior doctor years, a bit of a blur, to be honest. They were mostly nights, mostly weekends, really long hours, and shed loads of exams. By the time I was in my early 30s, I was a member of the Royal College of Physicians, a member of the Royal College of GPs. I was a fully fledged GP and a mum. And I moved up to Suffolk here 5 or so years ago from London. In general practice, we all have our areas of interest. Mine are women's health, so I do all the coils, the implants, the contraception, the menopause, the gynae. I have an interest in skin, so I do dermatology, I do dermoscopies, I look at moles with my dermatoscope to see if there's skin cancer. I do minor surgery, I do aesthetics, so I've worked for 5 years in London in a company called Cosmetics doing fillers, Botox, etc. And I now work at the Nuffield on a Wednesday morning doing Botox for sweating, facial wrinkles and red veins. I set up something called the Digital GP, which I showed you at the beginning. Digital GP, it was like an online platform really for my patients. Initially, it was really for my patients to communicate. I find sometimes I say the same thing. I have a pattern of things that I say, like, for example, the marina coil. Women want to know about the marina coil, quite rightly, because it's brilliant. But I would say the same thing again. And often I say to women, well, look, why don't I record a video of me talking about the marina coil? Then you can have a listen to it and look at it in your own time and then come back and have a chat with me. But it's taken me, the Digital GP has gone further than I thought, and it's led me to become a GP advisor for the EPL charity in London. I've been on BBC Women's Hour, Sky News, Channel 4, and I've just signed with a TV agent. So who knows what the future holds? But right now I'm doing public speaking, which is fantastic. So that's me. Okay, now let's go on to this talk. So the menopause. The thing I feel about women's health, I feel really passionate about women's health because I feel as women, we are kind of stretched in every direction. So we are expected, and I think we put pressure on ourselves, but I think also we have pressure put on us as well. We have often very successful careers. We're often mothers, often partners. We're often looking after children, school admin. I mean, school admin. Oh my God, school admin is a nightmare. And then also parents. Our parents are going to get elderly, and they go from being independent to being dependent, and that's a real issue. So we have very little time for ourselves, and I think that can be a big problem. And we often put ourselves last, and our health can be put last. And the thing with the menopause is it's such a grey area. It's a very personal journey. There's no, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. It's this might do this, it might do that. You just don't know. And therefore, it's easy to, it can be subtle. So it's easy to sort of normalise or to ignore or to just put up with, which is a shame. Also, there is a bit of a stigma with the menopause. So whether it's to do with embarrassment, or whether it's to do with some of the symptoms or the side effects, or whether it's the fact that actually it marks the end of youth and more into, it's difficult to say why, but some women find it very hard to talk about. There's lots that we can do to reassure, lots we can do to self-help, and it's all about raising awareness and education and talking. So, a few questions. I always hate it when you're having a talk and then they turn the questions on you, but I'm going to try and see if anyone knows. Does anyone know exactly what the menopause is?
The body's shutting down from being fertile.
Exactly. So basically the ovaries stop functioning, the periods stop, and your fertile years come to an end. That's exactly it. Anyone know how old we will be when we go through it?
It can vary usually from very young to
Exactly. The average age in the UK is 52, but any time from 40 upwards is normal. If it's before 40, it's a premature menopause. Does anyone know how long it can last for? Too long. Yeah, exactly. So you have two women. One lady may stop her periods, have no symptoms, she sails through it, no problem at all. Another lady may suffer for a decade with the worst symptoms in the world. I mean, it's literally that different. Do you know how we diagnose it? Right, exactly right. So we can say when you're postmenopausal, we can say very easily when you've been through it, because we say if you're over 50 and you haven't had a period for a year, you're postmenopausal. If you're over 45 and you haven't had one for 2 years, you're postmenopausal. And that's kind of quite easy. What we find difficult is the perimenopausal years. So the perimenopause is basically a roller coaster where your hormones are going up and down. And if I did a blood test, it would just show me that you're having periods still, which you would be because you weren't postmenopausal. It really wouldn't help at all. So perimenopause is very much a clinical diagnosis on, just like I did with Mary, you take a history, you exclude everything else, right age, right kind of symptoms, that's what it is. Sometimes what you can do is do a trial of hormones, because what hormones do, you do it say for 3 months. If you go back, if I gave Mary 3 months of hormones and she went absolutely back to normal, that's our diagnosis. We know it's menopause. She doesn't have to stay on the hormones, but at least she knows that it's not Alzheimer's or not dementia. Right. Shout out, who knows some symptoms? Right. Okay, are you ready for this? So hot flushes, whoever said hot flushes, 85% of women have hot flushes. Hot flushes. Okay. Night sweats, irregular periods, reduced libido, vaginal dryness, mood swings. These are all classic menopause symptoms. But there are also other symptoms that can come as well. Sleeping, so tiredness, hair loss, sleeping problems, memory problems, dizziness, weight gain, urinary incontinence, allergy. Allergy is a big one. I see a lot of women who suddenly become allergic. Dry nails, palpitations, depression, irritability, breast tenderness, migraines, joint pain, dental problems, muscle tension. And that's, I mean, look at that. So you can see why it's a complete sort of, it can be a nightmare for some. Absolutely. Okay. Another thing I want to say is, if 100 years ago, women we were living till we were kind of 60. We were postmenopausal for 5-10 years. Now we're all going to live till we're 100, so we're going to be postmenopausal for half of our lives nearly. And actually, up until you're menopausal, you have estrogen that protects you. It protects our bones, it protects all our tissues and our joints. It protects us more than men against who don't have estrogen against things like heart disease and stroke. As soon as you go through the menopause and your estrogen depletes and goes down low, your risk of things as time goes on, or things like fractures from bone thinning, osteoporosis, heart disease and stroke goes up. Well, there's also this condition called the genitourinary syndrome of the menopause. Now, I'm actually going to talk about this at the end in a bit more detail, but this is an incredibly common undiagnosed condition. So 50% of women at about 4 years after the menopause will get changes to their vulva, vagina and their urinary tract due to lack of estrogen. And this causes all sorts of symptoms. And only 10% of women are actually being treated with the right medication. So this is something that's really unknown and yet so common. And it leads you to recurrent urinary tract infections. So I will talk about that in a bit more detail about what you can have, because it's easily treated. So these are all the risks long-term after the menopause. Right, so let's talk about management. So if you think about, say, any disease, any problems, if we can sort our lifestyle out first, then actually often that's enough, So we know that exercise protects us from most cancers, heart disease, stroke, obesity, diabetes, dementia. So if we are exercising regularly, then actually that will really, really help most diseases and the menopause. So it's so important that we look at and we talk about lifestyle. And obviously we're not expecting people to be super duper duper fit, but it's little tweaks here and there that we can make to make sure that our lifestyle is as good as it can be. So lifestyle, diet, exercise. As I said before, there's hormonal treatment, there's the non-hormonal treatment, there's the supplements that you can buy over the counter, lots of them that you buy. You go into the health food shop, you go, which ones do I take? What can I have? And then there's the talking and behavioural therapies. So exercise. I'm going to tell you a bit more about exercise. So we should be, according to NICE guidance, we should be doing more than 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise every week. And that's to maintain good health and prevent all those other things I was telling you about. So anything where you feel slightly out of breath, slightly sweaty. We should be doing things like Pilates and yoga. We should be doing strength training. So we don't want to build weights, but as we age, our muscle mass will deplete. So actually doing the odd bit of weight training will maintain that muscle mass, which helps you not gain weight after the menopause, keeps you strong, keeps you active. Also, weight-bearing exercises. So if you do exercise that you're jumping up and down on your feet, running, power walking, dancing, aerobics, that will help strengthen your bones and keep them strong after the menopause. Other things in your diet, hot flushes. So if you reduce the alcohol and the caffeine in your diet, that can help hot flushes. Reduce or stop smoking, really beneficial to your symptoms. Maintaining a healthy body weight. Again, this is a lot to do with diet and exercise. And the dietary changes, I always say, have a rainbow of veg. Okay, if you think about every single colour in a salad of veg, or in a bowl of vegetables, every single colour represents a vitamin or a nutrient or a mineral. If you have an absolute variety of colours, you're going to have a brilliant variety of all the goodness, together with all the vitamins and the fibre and the things that will keep you healthy. Plus, they're low in calories. So it's just a case of planning and creating these little bits of vegetables and food that will help, and they can then help your symptoms and keep your weight down. The Japanese diet is really good for menopausal symptoms. So fish, especially salmon, has been found to be great for hot flushes. Soya, so soya can be in tofu, soya milk, soya cheese. You can get so many different products now. They have natural phytoestrogens, so natural estrogens within them that will help with your low estrogen that you're getting from the menopause. Soy, as in soy sauce, they've got isoflavones in, again, which are really good. and flaxseed. So you can get these kind of packets of flaxseed that you sprinkle on your yogurt. And they're, again, I've got patients who swear that they help their hot flushes. Relaxation exercises. So first of all, we're all so busy, so often it's good to just, in fact, even if you're not menopausal, it's so good to have a way of relaxing and de-stressing and empty our heads of all the stress of the world. Doing things like mindfulness, meditation are all brilliant. Also, if you're having hot flushes, sometimes you find that you get this panic that comes on because you think, I'm getting a hot flush, everyone can see it, oh my God, and before you know it, it's actually exacerbated it. And actually, if you can relax and learn to do breathing exercises and breathe through it, there's evidence that it actually reduces the severity of the hot flushes. So it's certainly something to think about. Sleep hygiene. So sleep is, I mean, I could literally talk for hours about sleeping. Sleep is the most important thing that we can do, and yet none of us have enough sleep. And I think it's a combination of lifestyle. It's to do with having screens, having too much caffeine, having too much alcohol, the white light in our rooms, artificial lighting. It's a combination of things. And if you can sort your sleep habit out, so making sure that you exercise so that you're tired, so you sleep well, having a pattern, a habit where your body knows when to go to sleep, making sure the conditions you sleep in are optimal for sleeping, so quiet, dark rooms that aren't no noise, without your light, without your phone, without a TV, then you will probably sleep better, and then you feel more motivated in the morning to do whatever you need to do. Often this is a cycle though. You kind of got to get your symptoms right before you can sleep, but it's all together in the melting pot. And then finally, it's keep hydrated. So again, after the during or after menopause, things will start to dry slightly. Skin, hair, joints, even the vertebral discs. And if you keep hydrated and drink plenty of fluid, keeps it nice and hydrated and healthy. Any questions so far? It's all a lot of information, a lot of chat. No? You will say, won't you, if you think, hang on a minute, I don't get it. Okay, let me tell you about hormone replacement therapy. So this is now the first line treatment for perimenopausal symptoms as per NICE guidance. I'm going to tell you a bit about the history of HRT. So HRT was first discovered or developed in the 1930s. It has gone in and out of favour since then. When I qualified in 2002, it was massively out of favour. So lots of women were being stopped from taking it or not being given it at all. And this was because there was a few studies, but one was called the Million Women Study. And this showed that there were risks of heart disease, stroke, and breast cancer, mainly. And everyone was really worried. So a lot of women didn't have it, a lot of women suffered. What's happened now has been reanalysis. And actually what we realise is actually the benefits now outweigh the risks. And there are flaws to those studies. And the flaws were, what they were doing was they were looking at women who were postmenopausal, so 60 plus, and then hadn't had a period for 10 years, and then putting them on HRT, and then their risk of heart disease, stroke, and breast cancer went up. When actually, if you were to give it to a woman in her 40s who's perimenopausal, you're just continuing what she's already got, and therefore the risk is lower. So HRT is now back in favour and is first line as per NICE guidance. But the debate continues, quite rightly, and the research continues quite rightly. So we'll see. So a bit more detail about HRT itself. Okay, so there's two. Does anyone know the hormones that we use for HRT? So it's estrogen and progesterone. Yeah. Now, estrogen is the only reason why you get menopausal symptoms is because of the estrogen. So in an ideal world, you just be given estrogen and then your symptoms would get better. But you can only just have estrogen if you don't have a uterus, because estrogen will create a very thickened lining to the uterus if you give it unopposed on its own, and then the risk of endometrial or uterus lining cancer goes up. So you can only have estrogen on its own if you've had a hysterectomy. You also need progesterone, and that can be combined with the estrogen, or it could be in the form of, say, a Mirena coil, which goes into the uterus and it will sit there for 5 years and protect the uterus, and then you can just have the estrogen. The estrogen and progesterone come in two ways. They're either sequential, which is cyclical. So you have that initially. So if you're, say, having periods, you then go on a sequential one where you will then, a bit like the pill, you take your pills like the contraceptive pill, and then you will bleed. You'll have a regular period. And then you have to be on that for a year at least, and then you can move to the continuous one where you're taking equal progesterone and estrogen together, and your periods should stop. And then you continue that. It doesn't have to be a year, it could be more than a year. It depends on age, lots of factors. But those are basically the two hormones. Does that make sense? So let me talk about the risks of HRT. So every individual will be assessed by their GP or by their doctor before you can start HRT. And we look at so many different factors. We look at your age, your symptoms, your weight and your BMI, your blood pressure, your family history, your past medical history. We have to take that all into account. And if the benefits outweigh the risks, then you can be started on HRT. You will be seen after 3 months for a checkup, and then every year. And every year we'll reassess. Do the benefits still outweigh the risk or not? And if you get to a certain point where the risks outweigh the benefits, that's when it's a good time to stop. We know that HRT increases the risk of heart disease blood clots and stroke. So, but this is only in tablet form. If you take it in patches, the risk of blood clots and stroke is almost nothing. So that's something to remember. We know that the risk of breast cancer goes up with HRT. So if you think that on average, all of us, regardless of anything, the risk of us getting breast cancer anyway is about 10 women in 1,000 over 5 years. If you take HRT, it would be 12 women in 1,000 over 5 years. So it's not massive, but it's just something that has to be taken into account. And then ovarian cancer, we're not really sure. There's a bit of conflicting evidence. They think possibly it might increase ovarian cancer slightly, but again, there's more research needed. But then let's talk about the benefits. So we know that HRT reduces the risk of fractures. So it reduces a randomized controlled trial, it reduces by 23 per 1,000 lower fractures from taking HRT. We know HRT is not the treatment for osteoporosis, but it can be used as prevention for osteoporosis. It also reduces hot flushes by up to 87%. It improves mood, it improves muscle mass and strength, improves joint and muscle pain, it increases sexual desire. So reduce libido, HRT can help this. A lot of people say to me about stopping HRT, a really common question is, well, surely you're just delaying the inevitable, and that when I come to stop it, I'm going to get all these symptoms. And the answer is no, not necessarily, because what you're doing is you're in control of it. You then can decide when you do it and also how fast you get off it. So, you know, if you take it over at least 6 months, you can do it very slowly where you are in control of your symptoms. Also, you've had that duration of time on it where you've had a good quality of life, haven't had symptoms, and also maybe improved your bone health, etc. So, but that's something to chat to your doctor about, and that's something you will talk about at your annual review. Currently, there is no nice guidance now as to when to stop. So, you know, you don't say it's at 61 or at 55. There's no kind of guidance. All it is when the risks outweigh the benefits. That's all it is. So if you feel that actually, you know, I'm in my 60s now and the risk, then that's the time to consider stopping. There are some women who can't have HRT. If you have had breast cancer, if you have active heart disease or angina, uncontrolled high blood pressure, if you have a blood clotting disorder where you're going to be at risk of getting a blood clot or a DVT, if you have problems with your endometrial, so uterus lining disorder, liver disease, so cirrhosis. And then I've written here migraines. Now migraines, it's just that care has to be taken with prescribing HRT in people who have focal migraines, but the patches are much safer again. So that's also something to consider. That's quite a lot to take in. Is everyone okay so far? Yeah? Okay. I'm going to put some. So let's talk about non-hormonal medication. Not everyone can take HRT, and not everyone wants to take HRT. You know, it's a very personal thing where you take all the information and you work out what's right and what's wrong. You know, I have a family history of breast cancer, so whether I choose to have HRT when the time comes, I don't know. You know, you have to take all very much into account. So there are hormonal options, non-hormonal options. So I've written here clonidine, antidepressants, gabapentin, tibolone, and placebo. I don't know if any of you have heard of any of these. A lot of them are not licensed in menopause, so your doctor would need to explain to you exactly why you're using them and the risks involved. Clonidine is basically a blood pressure tablet, and some women swear that it helps their hot flushes. There's not a huge amount of evidence, but it can, for some women, seem to help. If you go to the bottom and look at placebo, now placebo, if I gave you a sugar pill, your hot flushes would reduce by 20%. So the placebo effect is an actual thing where you will just feel better just thinking that you're taking something. And if you compare, so if placebo is 20% and HRT is nearly 90%, then the antidepressants are 60%. So actually that there is a reduction in hot flushes and some of the menopausal symptoms with the antidepressants. And the best ones are fluoxetine and paroxetine, and also something called venlafaxine. There's also gabapentin, which is an anti-epilepsy drug. Again, there's some good evidence about, again, 60% reduction in hot flushes. Trouble is with some of these meds is there are side effects. So gabapentin, you may feel dizzy or drowsy. With the venlafaxine, I think it's nausea that a lot of women feel. Tibolone, that is a very non-specific hormone. So it's a synthetic steroid hormone that's not selective. So it's got lots of different hormones within it. We used to think it was a safe alternative to HRT, but actually you still can't have it if you have breast cancer. So actually, if you can't have HRT, you probably shouldn't be having, because of certain things, you probably shouldn't be having tibolone. But again, it could be used for some women. It can be very beneficial. Now, over-the-counter stuff. How are we doing for time? Good. Okay, nearly there. Herbal remedies. So I've listed here black cohosh, red clover, dong quai, evening primrose, ginseng. Now, as I say, you go into these health food shops, you think, oh my goodness, what can I take? None of them have fantastic evidence to support them. In fact, the only one that does have any evidence is black cohosh, and that is equivocal. So it's not even strong evidence. But some women find that it helps them, and as long as it's not doing any harm, then I think absolutely take them if you want to try them. The only thing with black cohosh, yeah?
I have a question, because it's not on your list. I've been taking vitamin B6.
Yeah.
Listed for women's health and various things.
Have you found it helpful?
Well, I think so, but I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think vitamin B6 is so this lady's taking vitamin B6. I don't know that it's good for the menopause, but certainly it's probably not bad for supplement in general. I'm always a bit dubious about supplements. I'm more of a kind of a try and get it through your diet kind of thing, because actually if you have a really good diet with lots of different vegetables and fish, and then you should be getting enough. But yes, certainly if it helps. So then absolutely, no, you're right to break that. So she's vegetarian. If you have a diet that is restrictive, then absolutely you should be making sure that you replace. So for example, also iron, because it can be quite hard to get all the iron into your diet if you're vegetarian, and you have to find ways of doing that. So sometimes it is sensible to have supplements, yeah. Okay, the other thing I was going to say about black cohosh. So one thing we worry about is that it can actually be quite toxic to your liver. So it's always important if you go and see your GP and say, I want to talk about the menopause or whatever, do tell them what you're taking, because that's the other thing with supplements is often there's this, you sort of think that if the more that you have, the better, and actually often that's not the case. It's like that chap in America who had green tea every night, and it's brilliant, mug of green tea, perfect, really good. But then he thought, I know what, I'm going to be super healthy, and I'm going to take green tea tablets every night. He took 3 days, he took 5 days green tea in tablet form, and then he went into liver failure, he had to have a liver transplant. And the thing is, it's not the case that more is better. It's because supplements, so just be careful with supplements. Acupuncture, reflexology, magnetism, again, fantastic treatments, and if they make you feel better, they are, do them. The trouble is that we don't have much evidence that they help. But research is still going on. Vitamin E does have some evidence. So vitamin E is a natural antioxidant, and 2 trials have shown that there is a marginal benefit in hot flushes. And homeopathy, actually, there is evidence in an observational study and a few randomized controlled trials that are encouraging, and apparently a larger trial is going underway. So there's stuff happening that you can try. Did anyone see the Mariella Fostrup? Yeah. So I did. I thought it was brilliant. And what I found mostly interesting was the CBT, the fact that they all had this cognitive behavioural therapy where they were taught how to recognise their hot flushes and how to help with behaviour and therefore how to manage them better. And there was a great deal of evidence. If you haven't watched it, I really recommend it. It's on BBC iPlayer. But the reason I put that there is that there is a place for talking therapies and cognitive behavioural therapy for symptoms of menopause. And actually, if you are somebody who just doesn't want to try medication, which absolutely is fine, because as I said, we're at the very personal journey, and it's whatever you kind of want to do. But explore these options, because they can be for some women really beneficial, and no side effects, and they don't cost them. They're very good. So see how you go. Fine, I promised I would come back to this. So this is, as I said before, genitourinary syndrome of the menopause. So this is when you have lack of estrogen in the vaginal, vulval, urethral areas. So you can have things like vaginal dryness, lack of lubrication, pain during sex, itching, soreness, burning, discomfort. You can get urinary symptoms like urgency, frequency. You can get recurrent urinary tract infections. You can get stress incontinence. These are all incredibly embarrassing symptoms for women, and yet 50% of women will get them, about most commonly after the menopause, but 50% of women will get them at least. So really common, and yet only 10% are actually getting the right treatment. And the treatment is 3 things you can try, but the best one really is the vaginal estrogen cream. So the vaginal estrogen cream, or pessary, or you can have it in a ring pessary or a vaginal tablet. And these you initially have every day for 2 weeks, and then you have twice weekly, and they will really help symptoms. They are very low risk, very low risk. I think they're equivalent of having 1 HRT tablet in a year, the amount you absorb. So they're really low risk, and they work exactly when you need them. And even if you are on HRT, these are really, really beneficial. And I sometimes see women who have recurrent urinary tract infections. They're like, why do I keep getting a UTI or a urinary tract infection? And it's because of the changes, the lack of estrogen, the dryness, and the defense, the natural defense has gone in that area. And so the vaginal estrogens, they need to be prescribed. You get them from your GP. So do think about that. The only people that really can't have them are if you have estrogen receptive breast cancer, or if you have endometrial, so uterus cancer, and you really can't have it. But otherwise, definitely speak to a GP about it. Other things you can try are lubricants. Now, lubricants are basically thickening agents in a soluble water base, and they are great for sexual intercourse, for just basically acting as lubricant to just have things move smoother. Then you get moisturizers. So these are hydrophilic polymers, and these basically retain water in the vaginal wall better. And you use them a bit like the estrogen gels, but they are no risk. They're basically water based, and you can use them alongside the estrogen as well. So it's a win-win. There are 2 brands that I know of. One is called Yes! And one is called The Cleanse, and you can buy them from any chemist over the counter. Right, I'm nearly done. Nearly done. So Mary, as I say, Mary represents hundreds of women that I see. So for Mary, what I would suggest for her is lifestyle. So first of all, she needs to cut down the alcohol. I know for myself, sometimes I get home from work, I'm so stressed, you think the only way I can de-stress is have a glass of wine. And actually that can often do more harm than good. She needs to cut down the alcohol, because if she cuts down the alcohol, she'll probably sleep better. If she sleeps better, she will probably wake up feeling more motivated. She'll be able to perhaps plan her diet a bit better, eat a bit more home-cooked food, maybe take with her a salad instead of having a sandwich out in the machine. She needs to start exercising. She needs to take time for herself in her day to exercise. And if she exercises, she'll be more tired at night, so she'll sleep better. And it's this absolute vicious cycle that she's got herself into. She needs to basically take stock. If she exercises and sleeps better and has a better diet, her menopause symptoms and her memory will improve. So sometimes that on its own may be enough. But for someone like Mary, she might, at the age of 45, benefit from some HRT. So she could have a Mirena coil inserted, because her periods are really heavy. And what a Mirena coil will do is it will go into the uterus. Because the progestogen is there all the time, it stops the lining of the uterus from increasing. So it keeps it in a really thin, healthy state. So most women find they have very light, very infrequent periods, or no periods at all. So that's the progestogen component sorted. And then she could have some estrogen in the form of a patch or some gel or a tablet that she takes daily, and that would help improve her memory and help improve her motivation and make her feel, and this is what I hear so often, herself again. So she has, for the last 6 months, not felt herself, felt tearful, and she may go back to feeling Mary, where she can function and she can do everything normally. So, in summary, I hope I've covered a lot of the menopause. I hope it's been helpful. As I say, I suppose there's 3 things to take away. 1, talk about it. Every single woman is going to go through the menopause. Facts, everyone. And so talk about it with your friends, talk about it with your family, talk about it with your GP. Also, there's no correct path. It's a personal journey. You can decide. The more you know about it, the more you understand it, the more you can decide what path you are going to go down and make that your individual journey. And my 3rd thing is do start with lifestyle and diet. I can't recommend enough how much you're improving your lifestyle and your diet can actually really, really benefit you. Here is my website, thedigitalgp.com. I am on social media as The Digital GP on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and that's a scan and you can go straight to my website. Do have a look. Please follow me. I'm on there every week, every few days, doing little snippets of not just menopause. I do it on. Last time I did postnasal drip. I've done viral warts. I've done all sorts of things. So have a look. And I would love your feedback. If you want to give Becky a message and just say whether you thought this was helpful or not. I'll be honest with you, this is the first time I've done the menopause talk. I've done a lot of exercise talk. So if you felt it was good, or if you felt it needed any more, then I'd be really grateful. And obviously, if there are any questions, I'll be really happy to answer them. And thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Does anyone have any? Yeah, I'm just because we all still here in the workplace, and I'm just wondering if there's any advice in terms of what managers and colleagues can do in order to support women who may be going through menopause, as well as anything women can do themselves to help themselves in the workplace. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Did everyone hear the question? Yes. I mean, I think the fact that we're having this talk and the fact that there's a women's network that exists, I think that's a really good sign, actually. I'm hoping that the menopause is going to be something that's recognised more, because actually it is, for some women, so detrimental to their health, but also to how they work. I think communication and awareness and talking to your managers about it and saying, look, this is the situation. It's a real thing. And as a GP, I would be happy to support that. If I needed to write a letter saying, this is what this lady's going through, and she, I'd be very happy to, and she needs this break or that break or whatever. It has to be, you know, yeah, they need to be sympathetic to what you're going through. Yeah.
I think that's one of my takeaways actually today. We all know what symptoms we go through, but it's not necessarily that awareness isn't necessarily there with all of our managers and colleagues even. So I think from my takeaway is there's a lot more we can do as a women's network, even if it means getting better over to have a bit of a manager's session, you know. So, and those ideas are the ideas I really want to hear from you. Those really practical things that we can put into place.
So I come from a practice that's actually a male-dominated practice, and the people everything seems to be. I have spoken to each one of them, see if I can actually get a different view. Have you got any suggestions of where to go if you haven't got some testimonial?
Yeah. Yes. You know, that's difficult, and it is difficult actually if that happens, because not all women are interested in women's health, if you know what I mean. So I think you either move practice and go to a different one, or you ask to be referred to a menopause clinic. You know, they do exist, and actually what happens is if the demand is there, then the supply follows. So actually, if more women were saying, do you know what? Because there's certain things that I'm happy to prescribe. There's certain things that I'm not happy to prescribe. Like, for example, testosterone is something that I've never prescribed. I know a lot of private clinics prescribe it. But if someone said to me, I really want it, then I would say, do you know what? I might refer you to a menopause specialist, and you know, then you can have that chat with them because they do it all the time. So I think if you're not getting anywhere, and you really, then you could go there. But on a day-to-day basis, that's quite sad if you're not feeling supported. Yeah. Sorry to hear that. Yes.
Something reading that I've done refers to cortisol, oxytocin, and adrenal toxins. How does all of that fit in with some of the symptoms and some of the things that we can change? Because whilst I read it, I didn't fully quite understand. And read it, I thought, okay, that might be one of my symptoms, but I didn't really quite understand how to put it into.
So the question is,
change or to establish what the levels are to see if there's problems or.
tell me just, where were you reading that?
It was just general things that I've found on the internet and whatever about it.
So the question is about cortisol,
oxytocin and adrenal toxins.
So these are all hormones that are produced in your adrenal glands. The in terms of your menopausal symptoms, they shouldn't really be related. This is a bit where the testosterone comes in. So there is little data, little evidence about your adrenal glands, whether your ovaries shut down, you still should produce those normally. And even if you don't, even if we measured them, they should be in the normal range, and they often don't coincide with symptoms. So I wouldn't necessarily be too worried about those. There are conditions where they drop, but those are sort of separate conditions, not the menopause. I wouldn't worry too much. I would focus more on stuff that is kind of got good evidence and good that we use regularly that will probably help the symptoms. And then if you are sort of set up on those and still having symptoms, then we can explore those other kind of unusual hormones that wouldn't normally be reduced in that situation. Yes?
Can I make an observation from talking about being menopause and being in the workplace? Having a conversation, an honest conversation with your line manager is key. My line manager couldn't work out why I wanted to kill everybody all the time. But after speaking to her, I explained how I was feeling, and she's encouraged me to take a break, to have those moments, to go away and even just to go to the toilets and scream loudly with no one listening, to get out of the way, calm myself down and just deal with it. And over time, having that line manager understanding, if I excuse myself from a situation or meeting, I'm not being weird. I just need to leave the room, whether it's to have a private hot flush or to feel a bit emotional or whatever, and to because I don't think people necessarily understand the hormonal imbalance that you're going through.
Yeah.
1 minute, everything's brilliant, fantastic, and someone can say something, and your whole world comes crashing down.
Yeah.
It is that quick.
Almost out of control of emotion. Yeah.
And
I mean, I
until you
think
find
that's
that balance. Speak to your line manager and say, I
Yeah.
need that support.
So communication and raising awareness, and it is key, isn't it? It's just making sure that everyone understands. Yeah.
And actually, have your menopause, say it, use the word.
Yeah. That's it.
What they're going to do.
Yes.
I think that's the thing because they go out and think the working pregnant with their kids do, but it's something that the hormones is actually think, oh, but if you experience a menopause, recognize it.
Should we just do one more question? Is that all right? Yeah.
I was just going to say that back to the question of adjusting to the work. I don't work in this building, I work in Constantine, and it's just boiling hot in there all the time.
Yeah.
But we've been told if they have bird cat walk around the building, we've got to have the fans, have the fans, or the air conditioning. So you can't keep walking outside to get fresh air. When we're on the top floor, there's one window to the toilet. Then we move forward, so I can't go to the toilet. There's no fresh air, you can't open the window.
Yeah.
So, and also with children, you can't keep walking outside, it's kind of hot. So I have got a fan, there's somebody on my team, who has a white fan,
Yeah, no, that's
important. The wider question is not in this building, and most of our buildings, they're electric.
yeah.
And you like the floor for free.
Good, yeah, that's good.
So I think there is something that we can do practically to say if there is a genuine reason or guidance to say, you should have a trust in all of us.
Yeah, we're bad. Yeah. Yeah. I'll say that.
Just go out and have a bit of a breather. I mean, there can be we can have a little bit of a list of managers and have a look at and say,
We've had a
I know
suggestion.
that sounds simple, right? And I know it's not, but
We've had a suggestion. You know how on the tube you get baby on board? Maybe you should wear a big M. Everyone can see. Oh.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Just remind people that if you are struggling to speak with them, there are more mental health first aiders, so if it's getting down the ground, you can't talk to somebody, that's another option. So,
Or the mediation service, if it goes that far.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, maybe we should have a menopause coordinator because we're not, it's not mental illness, we're having symptoms and biological function. I'm not mentally ill because I want to. That's all about, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for being really, really brilliant to have you. So we'll see if we can just continue the conversation. I think that's what it needs. Thank you.
Thank you.